Sergio Perez has spoken about the battle with his teammate yet again, although he was more or less humiliated by Verstappen in Miami, with the Dutchman going to win the race after starting P9. The Mexican's hope that he has what it takes to win the championship is still high. However, there might be other factors from Imola onwards that will interfere in the so far one-sided battle between these two drivers, and Perez is down for it. It seems like Verstappen lost his only ally on the grid, and while he may not need the support of Perez to win the championship, battling without it could cost him a lot. Throughout the course of the 2023 season, we've seen some battles between Verstappen and Perez, something we weren't used to seeing back in 2021 and 2022, when it was the Dutchman who had more pace and was able to extract more performance out of the cars he was given. However, in 2023, Red Bull made an announcement that they're now more than happy to let both of their drivers have the same car, or more precisely, they've found a setup that will suit both Perez and Verstappen no matter the race they're visiting. And in Jeddah and Baku, we were assured of this setup configuration, given the fact that Perez didn't back down and was able to hold the lead over Verstappen. At one point, the championship lead was up to 6 points, and given the fact that Verstappen didn't obey the team orders to abandon the fastest lap attempt, it became clear to Perez that his biggest enemy is sitting right next to him in the garage. The 2023 campaign was started by a dominant Red Bull, and it seems like this domination could end soon with all the new upgrades that are coming to the grid. This is something Perez is very much looking forward to, even though last year when the rest of the grid started to bring upgrades, he lost connection with his car and ended up as a slower driver than Mercedes and Ferrari in a couple of races. But this time, he has the right machinery in his hands and definitely the right motives to show that even though he's well into his 30s, he does not plan to back down from a fight. He has further spoken about the team's actions and what he thinks the team will do in a potential situation in which Verstappen's lead would be threatened by a driver from Mercedes, Aston Martin or Ferrari. But before we go into that, let's see if any of these teams have the potential to challenge Red Bull in Imola and further down the road. The lead that Red Bull has built in 2023 is very big, and many would label it untouchable. But if there's one thing that we've learned about the sport in the previous years, it's that you can never say never. The new upgrades that Mercedes, Aston Martin and Ferrari are bringing to the next track in Imola have boosted hopes that the dominance of the RB19 will be put under a huge question mark, which eventually means that we might see a closer battle for the championship in 2023. Yes, one race itself cannot prove enough for a team to cut down 6 or 7 tenths of a second per lap, but it can definitely put them in the right direction, which often means that if you have the right baseline to start from, then the rest of the season can definitely go in your direction. Mercedes is changing the entire philosophy of the car. Aston Martin is bringing further upgrades to their design, which is motivated by the RB18, and Ferrari is still looking to find a missing piece to the puzzle, as they have been the ones that challenged Red Bull early in the qualifying sessions so far. The Maranello team has a very good one-lap speed performance, as shown in Baku, but when the real test comes in the race, something seems desperately off. Nevertheless, it's not something that's not fixable, and apart from them, Mercedes is bringing a lot of new parts that they hope will synergize with the performance of the W14, such as a new front suspension, a new floor, and a new side pod design. All of this will help the team understand the car's wants and needs, and with an improved aerodynamic design as well as increased wind tunnel time by 17% compared to Red Bull, there's definitely a story we can talk about further down the road. Yet, Wolff and Russell have shut down the expectations of the fans that something drastic will happen in Imola, but that doesn't mean that they're going to give up on the fight. What does this effectively mean for Perez and Verstappen? Their teammate battles could soon see a third or potentially even a fourth driver join, which could result in the team trying to interfere just to save their race and to end up as the winner at the end of the day. Christian Horner has also opened up on the debate of whether or not Verstappen is receiving favoritism treatment from Red Bull. And he did say that while many find this hard to believe, the team is going to extreme lengths to ensure that both Perez and Verstappen receive exactly what they ask for. When talking about this matter, the Briton added, I think it's about just being transparent and talking things through, going through what the expectations are and reminding them that they drive for a team and they represent every team member when they're driving their cars, and they represent all the partners that we represent as well. It's not just about them. Of course, in a briefing or in a meeting, they take that in, but as soon as they put a crash helmet on, I think it goes straight out the other ear. But you could see in Miami the respect that there was between the two drivers in the way that they raced with each other, that they were hard but fair and gave each other enough space, which is what we asked. So, what does Perez think about this? After all, he would be the guy who would have to move out of the way if this scenario came true, because he has been doing so for the past 2 seasons. That is, if he doesn't prove that he can also fight for the championship in the next couple of races, ones that have a more traditional outlet, except for Monaco, as Perez is definitely struggling to keep up with the pace of his teammate when the F1 caravan visits those races. According to the Mexican, there's no way that the team will interfere between him and Verstappen, and they will let them race as such, which implies that he's also as big in the team as the 2-time world champion. While it's definitely a bit of a far-fetched scenario to compare yourself to Verstappen, is the right approach in a season that could see a lot of twists and turns if any of their 3 rivals' upgrades prove to be competitive further down the road. When talking about this matter, the Mexican added, "Yeah, the margins are very close, particularly on Saturdays. On Sunday, it depends a bit circuit to circuit, so it's important not to make mistakes. I think the level of respect between Max, myself, the engineers is really high, although people might think differently, but it's extremely high. And I'm sure that the team feels super confident to let us race as hard as we've been doing. This is up for the team to decide, but if we judge by history, the team hasn't been doing what Perez wants them to do, give fair treatment to both of the drivers. And even though Red Bull has been going to extreme lengths in 2023 to show that the equality between both drivers is there and is present, Verstappen's performance in Miami has definitely shown that when the Dutchman enters his own league, it's practically impossible to catch him or play his game. This is why Hamilton has alerted us that a boredom-filled session may be ahead of us and the FIA may have to tweak the rules to prevent this from happening. But from my point of view, it's his team and Ferrari that need to understand what they've been doing wrong for 2 years and why they aren't as competitive as they should be. Obviously, the season is still not dead, as many fans would love to proclaim it as such, and there is a high chance that we'll see the upcoming race mixing up the pecking order and bringing much-needed fun for the Formula One fans. On top of that, we're expecting some rainy conditions, one that has forced the paddock that arrived early to the track to evacuate during the intensity of it. And while the race has been put under a question mark, the rain itself is always here to make things spicy and to bring out the best out of the drivers. What do you think about the Perez-Verstappen drama? Let us know in the comments below.